This is blurry. I'm taking y'all picture. He wants a picture of you all.
Good evening and welcome to the monthly meeting of the Arlington Board of Zoning Appeals, which is also known as the BZA. I'm Terry Russell, chairman of the board. The board is made up of 5 citizens appointed by the Circuit Court. In addition to myself, we have Charles Smith, Inta Malice, Judy Freshman, and Paul Melnick. Also present is the professional staff, including Deputy Zoning Administrator Andrew Noxon, who serves as Secretary of the Board of Zoning Appeals, Norma Cozart, Zoning Administrator, Clifton Hogan, Assistant to the Zoning Administrator, and Cheryl Williams, Zoning Technician. We thank you for being here and extend a warm welcome. To avoid disruptions, we ask that you please turn your cell phones or pagers off or put them in the silent mode. On the front table, you'll find copies of the staff report for each case before us this evening. I recommend that if you have not yet seen that report for your case, that you get a copy and review it before your case is called. The board's powers are prescribed in the Code of Virginia and are set out in further detail in the county zoning ordinance adopted by the county board. The Board of Zoning Appeals does not have the power to rezone property or to amend the regulations set forth in the ordinance. That authority rests with the county board. This board does have the authority to do 3 things. We can approve use permits that allow modifications of placement requirements for structures on 1- and 2-family lots where there is no option in the zoning ordinance to allow such modifications. We can grant variances from the specific requirements of the zoning ordinance, and we can decide appeals of decisions of the zoning administrator. This evening, cases will be called and a brief staff report and recommendation will be given. Following that, board members will ask any questions of the staff they may have. Next, applicants or their representative will be given an opportunity to make comments to support the application or appeal. If they choose to make a comment, they must come forward to the podium so that their comments can be recorded for the record. Next, all speakers for the item will be called. Speakers must fill out a speaker's slip, which is available on the table in the front of the room. After we hear from speakers for and against the proposal, the board may permit the applicant a brief opportunity to clarify any points. The board may ask any questions of any speakers, but does not permit and will not condone any cross-examination or direct questioning by others. After the board has gathered all the information they need and discussed the case, it will decide the matter by voting on a motion duly made and seconded. A majority is needed to approve any motion. Any appeal from the decision of this board must be made to the Circuit Court in accordance with state law. After your case of interest is heard, you're welcome to stay for the balance of the session or leave at your convenience. Thank you for being here this evening. Please call the first case.
Thank you and good evening. Our first case tonight is V-11003-15-UP-2. This is a use permit request by Christopher and Teresa Gerusi to permit changes to a previously approved use permit. It's for the expansion of the footprint of a new 1-story right side addition. This is in the R6 zoning district on a premises known as 6011 9th Road North.
Have any questions of the staff? If not, can we hear from the applicant, please? Good evening.
How are you? I'm here to
I guess, asked for permission to, well, the builder built this addition onto the side. And apparently when he was doing it, my understanding is that he lined up the new back wall with the current wall that was in the house. When he did that, he had to go back an extra 6 inches. So that was done, then the measurements, I don't know if he knew he was doing it or not. I know the lateral side of the house, that was the thing that we were really worried about, was going not back past 7 feet, and that was exactly on. But I think the back, just to line up the walls, I think he moved it up a little bit, like 6 inches toward the back of the house. So it's built, and the kitchen's kind of on hold right now, and we would appreciate it if possible, if we could continue on with our new 6 inches.
Does the board have any questions?
One question, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Smith?
So he made a mistake.
I don't know, it may have been that so the architect and the builder go back and forth. The builder says that the architect originally drew it incorrectly. It should have been lining up with the interior wall.
One or the other made a
Correct.
mistake.
Okay. Yeah, I
Okay.
don't want to pick sides, so.
Okay. He didn't do it until, he didn't flaunt the law and just say, I'll just do what I want.
Oh, no. No, he's built this exact addition on like 3 other homes in the whole area, and he did it exactly the way he did the other homes. But I think, my understanding is that it was drawn slightly off to something about not lining up with the exterior wall, but lining up with the interior wall, which was a difference of 6 inches. So that's my understanding.
Thank you, Mr.
It
Chair.
would support.
Okay, thank you. I don't believe we have any speakers. Entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Smith?
I move that the Board of Zoning Appeals adopt the attached resolution approving use permit V-11003-15-UP2, subject to the conditions which are listed in the staff report.
Is there a second? Second. It's been moved by Mr. Smith and seconded by Ms. Freshman to approve the request as advertised. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 5-0. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your time.
Okay, the next case tonight is a carryover from a few months ago. This is V-11046-15-VA-1. This is a variance request by Virginia Smith to permit a setback of 20 feet to the wall of a new 2-story building from the center line of South Grant Street instead of 50 feet as required. 0 feet to the wall from the South Grant Street right-of-way instead of 25 feet as required. To permit a parking lot to be located 0 feet from the rear property line, 0 feet from the left side property line, and 0 feet from the South Grant Street right-of-way instead of 10 feet as required. To erect a fence with a height of 6 feet within 3 feet of the South Grant Street right-of-way instead of 4 feet as required. And to permit compact parking spaces at a percentage of 33.3% instead of 15% as permitted. It's all for the construction of a new 2-story commercial building, the first floor parking lot, and a new 6-foot tall fence along the rear property line. It's in the C1 zoning district, premises known as 701 23rd Street South.
Do we have any questions of staff? If not, could we hear from the applicant, please? Sure. I'll just ask a question of the staff while we're waiting for Michael. There didn't seem to be anything new in our packet.
No.
Thank you. Welcome. Give us your name for the record. Welcome, though.
Mr. Chairman, it's Michael Foster with MTFA Architecture on behalf of Virginia Smith and of Arlington Realty, who is the owner of this building. I had some other images, but I apologize. Oh, you did? Oh, great. Yes, this is the building, and I was just going to share a brief moment to review from 2 months ago a couple of key components. This building, we are requesting the variances as stated. I think it's important to remind the board that what we are doing here is reducing the number of non-conforming elements to make this property viable and useful. Let's go through a couple of slides very quickly to help refresh that this building is a building that has several additions and has a number of structural deficiencies, and more importantly, next slide, ADA deficiencies. Further, it is projecting out further towards 23rd Road, not conforming to the setback, not conforming to the parking ratios, and not conforming to many things. Most important, next slide, is you can see how it projects further in. We're going to be setting the building back an additional 14 feet to meet that conformance. Next slide, please. And, but mainly for this, without major structural renovations, this building cannot be made ADA accessible, and for her business and the nature of it, while it's not a change in use, it can't be used. Next slide. Even the hazard, this was the previous tenant, because there were slip and falls with not meeting comfort area. Next slide, please. The site has an existing structure on it, and our variance request is a lesser encroachment than the current variances that are there, both on the side yard on Grant Street, which remains the same, but we are conforming to the other areas of the 23rd foot street setback, as well as parking requirements. No other variances to the building footprint, except for having a space for the required parking. Next slide. Next slide. This actually shows the area of the 14-foot setback now, increasing that to the 25 feet. Right now, there's a 9-foot setback from the right-of-way, 20 from the road. That is the same as it is currently there, but by minimizing that first floor to being really 8.5 feet wide, we can meet the parking requirements and some landscaping. Next slide. That would limit all the office space after parking to the second floor. That would be just a simple open office area. Next slide. The elevations. Next slide, please. Just a diagram of an entrance glass, welcoming, freshen the look, setting it back. Next slide. From the side. Next slide. And this is a landscape plan that I put before you that, frankly, after the last meeting, my client was a little discouraged and had abandoned this project, and I just encouraged her. I said, they deferred it, not denied it, for two reasons. They may well deny it, but the two reasons, as stated, was the board asked for the staff to research and confirm if this was the appropriate venue. And while Mr. Knoxon can speak for himself, and it's my understanding that there are no other venues for this zoning and size. It doesn't qualify for site plan or anything else, and the strict adherence would prevent this building from being used as anything other than it is today. So he can confirm that. And the other one was, were we willing to not only meet but exceed the landscape code requirements? And what we have here is we exceed the 10% tree canopy requirement and want to landscape something that's a gracious forecourt that would be more of an asset, and then add the South Grant Street street trees in the county standard so that you'd have better screening of the building from the adjacent neighbors. We have been in communication with some of the neighbors early on, and then a few others since, to really work out the right balance of landscaping. So we're here at the request of the specific criteria of the last deferral to try to address your specific questions best we can. And with that, I'll leave it to the BZA and appreciate your consideration.
Do board members have a question for Mr. Foster? If not, I have one speaker. Should we take the speaker? Thanks, Michael. Nancy Bowers, please. Welcome.
Thanks. Get this in position. Thank you, members of the board, for giving me the opportunity to speak to you. For the record, my name is Nancy Bowers, and I am a resident of Arlington County. My address is 647 South 23rd Street, Arlington, Virginia, and I have been a resident at this address since 1978. My residence is located on the northeast corner of the proposed building. In the variance proposal request, the applicant, Ms. Smith, says that there will be no impact to the neighborhood, but I'm here to at least express my concern about my quality of life as I know it. I want to tell you that I do not support the variance request and would like to voice some concerns for your consideration. I will share with you that I originally was visited by Mrs. Smith and asked to support this endeavor, and I did sign her request. Unfortunately, what I did not realize that the proposal would result in variance requests that would alter the footprint of the area that I live in. And I can't support them, but I'm hoping that there is something that can be done that would suit her needs as well as the community's, not just for myself. During your August 12th, you did ask Virginia Smith, the petitioner, to work with neighboring property owners to create a landscape plan. When I went to see the zoning commission, I asked yesterday and today if there was a landscape plan, and I was told it was not in the packet and they were not aware of it, and I see now there is one, which I think is wonderful. But unfortunately, I am not aware of, nor do I know when the community was contacted. As I recall, at your hearing, you specifically asked them to go to the community. I live across the street from this building. I have received no communication and would have loved to have had the opportunity. In the various justifications submitted by Mrs. Smith, she does not mention my residence. She mentions that there are commercial buildings on all three corner properties. So I bring that to your attention. So I would like to know, if you do consider approving this, are you going to accept the landscape plan? I would like to at least like to know who was contacted besides just the architect and a landscaper. Secondly, the 6-foot fence in the back of the property. I would like to know what's the purpose of this fence? Is it to create a barrier for the property on 2206 South Grant Street? At the last hearing, one of the questions that was asked was, did the owners of this property, had they been contacted and advised? I don't see an answer to that question. I ask that because I have to wonder, even though it is currently used as rental property, is the real owner of the property aware of what is happening to his real estate, to his neighborhood, and the potential it may have, good or negative or positive, whichever way, to the resale value? Third.
Ms. Bowers, your time is up.
Okay.
Can you summarize?
Yes, the last item I have is this uncovered parking space. What was the basis? I have a concern of the impact it is going to have on the neighborhood as far as lighting and wash in the area. Headlights coming in directly into my living room and dining room. I live directly across the street. There's nothing covering it. And that's basically I'm also concerned about some traffic issues, and I didn't realize I didn't have a light.
Thank you.
All
There was
right.
a buzzer, but I couldn't hear it very well myself either, so I understand.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Are the lights broken?
I don't know. That's there. Do board members have any questions, discussion at this point? That's the only speaker we have. No, we don't accept speaker slips after testimony is started. I'm sorry. Pardon?
I misunderstood the rules of order. I'm sorry.
That's okay. Board members? Somebody do something.
Mr. Chairman, let me ask staff a question. I'd have to imagine that the stairway is supported by, or parts of it are a part of load-bearing walls or load-bearing beams. And to make them, well, you can't, to make them wider, to remove and replace, that would involve, it seems to me, the touching of structural elements to the building. And while I find that the staff, so you don't disagree with that if they're load-bearing?
If it's load-bearing, it's considered structural, correct?
And that, in 2015, I mean, you couldn't employ somebody, right? I guess you could say that, it's a pre-74 building, so it doesn't need modification. But I mean, you couldn't employ somebody who had special needs and would have, for use of an elevator and the like, with the building and its condition. And it certainly looks like an eyesore. What's possible beside? I mean, I know your staff report says that it's a usable structure, and certainly it is in some sense. But I mean, it seems like its intended purpose of being an office building, that it wouldn't really meet that today. I guess what would be permitted, or I guess your position is nothing really would be permitted because it's not, because it's encroaching right now.
Well, uses would be permitted. We could hand somebody a certificate of occupancy if they came in to, say, just open up an office, or any other use allowed in a C2, which isn't a change of use that would trigger, or C1, which would, as long as it's not a change of use, which would trigger a different parking requirement.
Mr. Melnick.
Yeah, I have a question of staff to follow up. So it sounds like from your report, correct me if I'm wrong, but your point was that this building could just be renovated. It just keep the building, keep the parameters of it, just renovate it, keep it where it is instead of a complete rebuild?
Correct.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Ms. Malice.
a question for staff. Part of the discussion at our last meeting was about planning, and besides this particular, we sort of explored what was allowed in this particular zoning category in this district. But are there plans that cover this area?
Don't seem to.
Documents that cover this area that give guidance on what might be permitted here?
We don't have any sort of master plans at this point. General land use plan. Crystal City has a plan, but that doesn't encompass this.
Okay. And is there any criteria or process for the applicant to request a rezoning? Something that would be more compatible with the kind of building that he's thinking about building?
There may be the option, but I don't think that it could legally be done. And I don't think, because of how the other zoning districts around it are laid out, you have residential R5 and R6. You could get into legal issue with spot zoning, and also staff and the county board may not be inclined to support any rezoning due to what the general land use plan says for that area.
So the zoning around it is all C1?
You have C1 on the two block faces on 23rd Street, and then everything surrounding that particular block is either R5 or R6.
I don't know that this is particularly unique in the county, that, we have commercial districts that abut single-family. And in other cases, we have made provisions, worked with planning staff to make provisions to find a compatible solution where the need to perhaps replace the building can be done in such a way that you work with the neighbors and you come up with a solution. This kind of edge development is not unique to to this site. It's been worked all over Arlington, and I'm just wondering whether why this would be unique and there would be no similar solution here. I guess I'm wondering out loud.
If I may comment. I don't think there are that many similar situations to this one. It's C1 commercial zoning, designated low residential 1 to 10 units per acre on the general land use plan, surrounded by R6 zoning, which is in keeping with that general land use plan designation. To do a special study just for this section of C1 I'm not sure that it's productive. There are C1 rights. Most of the properties here probably have enough land accumulated to do things by right under C1. I'd had a concern last time as to what was really possible, perhaps in terms of residential, because of the question of there's a variance. And so if there's a variance, supposed to find, whether there's anything that can be done with the property or not. And I'm convinced now that you can't do a residence here based on some sections of the zoning ordinance. So now we're back to the building that's there, the condition it's in, and the proposal before us. So I just wanted to throw that out. Any other comments?
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Smith.
I'm thinking back, I don't know, last year, the year before, we were doing a daycare on this street. I wasn't supportive of that, but I find this to be altogether different. And the placement of the parking, to me, with 23rd being a growing kind of important corridor, that this use and this plan seems to be perfectly in line with that neighborhood. So I'm going to do a trial balloon and ask Mr. Chairman that you accept my motion to adopt a resolution approving the variance that's been requested.
With the
conditions that would be described in the staff report that are the general conditions that we in general apply, the alternative resolution.
And the landscaping?
And yes, including the landscape plan that's been provided today that had Ms. Bauer's concerns, that addressed her concerns.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
It's been moved by Mr. Smith and seconded by Mr. Melnick to approve the variance as requested and subject to conditions as discussed. We have comments. Are we ready for a vote? I'd just make this comment. I'm in favor of improvement in Arlington County, wherever it can be. And it seems to me, given this piece of property and its location, that this is an improvement. We're getting landscaping and we're getting a nice new building on commercial property. Ms. Mouse.
I will not be supporting the motion. I continue to be concerned about the fact that the community has not engaged, and we really didn't get a chance to find out why we still have near neighbors that are wondering about this plan. So I was hoping that there was a solution that would allow the neighbors to engage and help shape this plan, but since there's none, I have to decline to support it.
Any further comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
No.
Carries 4-1. Variance is approved.
Okay. Our next case is a carryover from last month. This is V-11055-15-UP-1. This is a use permit request by Catherine Campbell and Ben Hanks to permit a setback of 4 feet to the areaway from the right side property line instead of 8 feet as required, and a setback of 20 feet to the deck from the 24th Street North right-of-way instead of 21 feet as required. It's for the construction of a new right side basement areaway and a new rear deck. This is in the R6 zoning district on a premises known as 2400 North Quintana Street.
Do I have any questions for the staff? Not, could we hear from the applicant, please?
Hi, good evening. I'm Ben Hanks. Thanks for the opportunity to speak briefly to you this evening. So the proposal is before you is to have a deck that would, a use permit for about 1 foot of deck space. And then what we would like to do is move the stairwell or areaway from the back of the house to the side of the house. There are just a couple reasons why we would like to move the stairwell to the side of the house. One is we are doing an addition, but we would like to maximize as much green space and yard space as we can. For my wife and I do a lot of landscaping, spend a lot of time with our children outside. This actually maximizes the usable yard space in the back of the house. Two, this actually, if we move the areaway, the stairwell down to the side of the house, it's actually the sight lines. We have a 4-foot fence that goes out to the street so people, the community, our neighbors can see in, and this would be an area where we would landscape. So from a sightline perspective, we think it actually would look nicer to have landscaping and yard space as opposed to a stairwell as it is today. And then third, our neighbors all support this. Our neighbor to the side where the stairwell would move, we actually, this issue was before the board last month. He had some concerns with the design. We went and talked to him. We actually changed our design, and we came up with an amicable solution. He now supports the design, and we have the support both of him as well as other neighbors. And I think that's it.
Thank you. I see your architect, Christine Kelly. Do you wish to say anything or just answer questions? Okay, thank you very much. Ms. Freshman.
Could you comment on the comment of the staff that the areaway could have been designed in a way that would not be problematic as they have identified it?
I think, and I'd be happy to be corrected here, that it could have been designed such that it was still in the back of the house, in which case there would be no need for a use permit.
Okay, but you have redesigned it knowing that a previous request was denied also.
The previous request, I don't believe, came before the board. I don't believe we changed the design based on concerns from our neighbor. If I got any of that wrong, I apologize.
Well, no, I was just referring to the staff report, which says that an 2014 request was denied. So that's what was my reference.
I don't think we had. I've been in that since 2011, and this is the first time I've been in this building or put in.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Melnick.
This house, okay, I get it.
So your point earlier was, the reason that it's on the side instead of the back, it's landscaping, maximizing the use of your backyard.
That's right. That's
Okay.
one of the reasons, correct. So of course, if it's on the back, if we moved it, if it were on the back, that area on the side is between the partition fence between me and my neighbor. It's on the north side of the house. It gets no light. There's nothing there. It's not usable space. So we thought it was a good idea to put the stairwell there, which frees up the area in the back to do landscaping, that type of thing.
Okay, thank you.
Do you have a comment from that neighbor about
Yes, I do. It's in the material that was submitted, the last page of this document. Do you want me to bring this up?
No, you don't need to. I just was confirming that.
Yes, it's
was the neighbor next door.
Correct.
Who
Louis
said it was fine for that areaway to be there.
That's right. Louis Fusco is his name. It's the last item. And again, we worked through the design issues, and he now supports it.
Okay. Any other questions? Any comments on the board? I mean, I think it seems to me that 4 feet from the line is an adequate space to get around an areaway with a lawnmower to walk. Staff didn't offer any alternative. I don't know if that related to how wide the steps have to be anyway, and there wouldn't be an alternative, or I don't know what the requirement for that is, but just make that comment. Ms. Melnick.
Can I follow up?
Sure.
So question for staff is, the staff report says that it could have been put on the rear. Were there any other concerns about it being 4 feet to the boundary that staff had in mind, or was it mainly it could have been switched and comply? Was there any other reasons?
Traditionally, staff will not support a structure like that that is closer than 5 feet to the property line. It's kind of our threshold marker, but also because that is the closest that anything in the ordinance is allowed to get to the side property line, whether it's a stoop, a step, anything. That's the closest it can be. And also, if you put a fence in there, you're talking about less than 4 feet. So just worried about the clearance issues as well.
Thank you.
Comments? Motion?
Mr. Chairman? I move that the Board of Zoning Appeals adapt the attached, I am going to move that the Board of Zoning Appeals adopt the alternate motion that would permit the side setback of 4 feet to the areaway from the right side of the property line, and approve the use permit for a setback of 20 feet to the deck from 24th Street North right-of-way, subject to the conditions listed below, listed in the staff report.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved by Ms. Malice, seconded by Ms. Freshman to approve the alternative resolution and its conditions. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 5-0.
The next case is V-11058-15-UP-1. It's also a carryover, and it's been revised as well. This is a use permit request by John and Dorothy Hardage to permit a setback of 5 feet from the right side property line instead of 8 feet is required. 6 feet from the 24th Road North right-of-way instead of 25 feet is required. It's for the construction of a new detached carport in the rear yard. It's in the R6 zoning district, premises known as 4647 24th Street North.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and the board. This is my wife, Dorta. I'm John Hardage.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. We're back after last month, and since that hearing, we've done just about everything we can that we know how to do to address the neighbors' concerns about a variance that we're asking for. We've attempted to balance the concerns that they've expressed with the hardship of trying to do this by right. Put it at this point. As it's proposed right now, the carport would stand 12 feet from 24th Road, farther, for example, than the garage next door to us, which has been there, granted, probably since 1940 or something, but it's very compatible with the neighborhood. In fact, I can show you a picture.
We have to keep it as give it to us.
This is a photo of my backyard and the garage, the neighboring garage highlighted. This is also a picture of the site. There's a two-car garage very close by to what we're proposing to build. And just to review really quickly, the reasons for this are very straightforward. This is all about building a carport so that we don't have to go out and clear snow off of a car. It's becoming a real problem. It's becoming hazardous. I actually fell last year, didn't get hurt or anything, but it's becoming a nuisance and a problem. A cover for loading and unloading the car would be very helpful. From the backyard, we have access to a covered porch, so you can actually get in and out of the house and put things in front of the door without getting wet. Plus, frankly, I think there's an aesthetic improvement because if we build the garage in the back, the front yard short driveway will be reclaimed as yard space, so that will be restored to green space with grass and shrubbery. I I would point out that there's a precedent with 4655 24th Street, which has a garage access to 24th. So almost exactly what we're talking about is done 2 doors up from us. And finally, staff has identified no safety or health or aesthetic concerns with this. Letters from the neighbors expressing no objections are provided here. I realize that there are neighbors who have objected, and I respect their points of view. We have reached out in good faith to try to talk with them and hear their concerns and try to address them as best we can. I have here 3 letters from neighbors. Yes, I have letters here from 3 neighbors affirming that they have no objection. I have verbal assurances of no objection to the project from the residents of 4621 24th Road North and 4719 24th Road North. I've had extensive conversations about the project with my neighbors at 4541 24th Street. They've expressed neither an objection nor an indication of support. I extended invitations to the neighbors who had objected at the last hearing to come to our house and actually talk about it on September 19th, and then again on September 26th. Nobody came to talk about it. Actually, Mr. Bill Moore, who lives up at the end of 24th Road, happened to wander by, and we actually did talk about it. He's a builder himself. He looked at the plans, and he announced that he had no objection. I can't speak for him. I can only tell you what he told me. And I will say that my neighbors did propose an alternative date, which was October 4th, but I wasn't able to do that. So as a consequence, I reached out to all of them. I said I'd be happy to call you directly and talk with you on the phone about your concerns. Only one person followed up, and I talked with him on October the 1st. So I will provide those letters to the board. This is a summary of what I just went over and put in my neighborhood outreach. Finally, Mr. Chairman, I'll just point out that to do this project by right would put it squarely on the patio that we have now, the existing patio behind my house. We simply can't do it by right without extreme hardship in terms of additional cost, engineering, design, architectural requirements. And I can show you, our builder has provided a plat that shows the various locations. If it would be helpful to the board, I can provide that too. Shall I distribute copies of the other documents, sir?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Sure.
Okay.
The lights are very bad. I can't see you, and therefore I can't hear you as well either. The sound's bad, and the lights are bad. We only have $1 billion budget here. Thank you. Let me ask you a question. I'm just going to interrupt and ask a question. You changed it slightly, some. Why? And what does that achieve?
Well, it puts it where we really would like to have it. Optimally, we'd like to have it in the back corner of the yard. It allows us to have as much remaining yard as possible. It's in the most efficient place in that location. It is changed, you're right. It is a bit closer to 24th Street, but it's a bit farther from our neighbor's property line. So we adjusted it to put it in the best place we can. We're not going to be able to do it by right unless we tear up our patio or destroy the patio, frankly, and put it right next to the house. And if we have to do that, maybe we have to do that because we're determined to do the project. And I was really gratified that the board at our last meeting reaffirmed our right to have access to our property. So that's really not an issue that I'm concerned about. It's just a matter of, can we do this for a reasonable cost, or do we have to spend a lot of money to try to do it?
Thank you.
You have anything you want to say? Okay. We're available to answer questions anytime.
Do board members have questions of the applicant? Okay. Certainly not at this time. If you want to stand by, we'll may have some. Questions of staff before we go to Ms. Malice?
I have a question for staff. This is a proposal different than the one that was submitted last month.
That's correct.
Have you compared them and decided if one is more compatible with the zoning district than the other? Or
Honestly, it doesn't make much of a difference because we're talking a few feet. I believe there's a suggestion from staff in there to at least put it 18 feet from the street right of way. That would be a little further off and allow for, one vehicle to park in a driveway so you're not hanging out into the right of way if you are parking on the driveway.
at the appropriate time, I would ask the applicant, whenever the applicant's back up, to address that staff's proposal. Find out if there's objections to that. Other people may have other things they want to do before the applicant comes back.
One question of staff, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Smith?
The by right option really is problematic also because there has to be separation from the house, doesn't it?
This is actually an accessory structure, not an accessory building, so we don't have the 8-foot requirement, but it just cannot be directly attached to it. So they could have 6 inches, a foot between it, but they're not required the 8 feet as a building with 4 walls would be.
So it's not an accessory building, it's an accessory structure?
Correct.
Okay.
I do have speakers. Do we want to hear the speakers? Okay, let's call the speakers. Sandra Bake. Is Bake correct? I apologize.
Bake, yeah.
Bake.
Like a cake.
Welcome.
Our family requests that Mr. Heritage build his garage within the county's current regulation of 25 feet back from the curb. And there's 3 reasons for that. The first one is for safety. The street was not built with access from the rear to those houses in mind. It's a narrow street. In order to get in, what Mr. Heritage proposes, in order to get into that garage, you have to make a very wide swing to go into it, and that would go into oncoming traffic. My house, my father's house is across the street. We don't need to do that because we're coming in from the other side. So he's coming in this way, he's got to be able to swing into it. So not only should it be further back, it should be wider in order for him to access it. I have a picture. This is my father's house, and you can see how wide that is. And here's his house. So it gives you an idea of that current layout. The second reason is for aesthetic reasons. The further back from the street, the less like an alleyway it will appear. It will be more open space. It won't be so crowded going down the street. I have a current picture of what it looks like his neighbor's garage, which is a very small one-car garage that is at least 30 feet back from the street, so it doesn't visually obstruct anything. And the third reason is because Mr. Hartage's property is just outside the Donaldson Run buffer zone. Even though he is not subject to any of the environmental restrictions, his property is right next to the county storm drain inlet that leads directly to Donaldson Run, and as a result, more runoff from his yard goes directly into Donaldson Run than the part of my father's yard that is actually in the buffer zone. I'll show you. Unfortunately, the picture doesn't show the drain, but right here, right there, next to his property. So all the runoff goes directly in there. Now, I know he's not subject to any of those environmental restrictions, but since Arlington County is spending hundreds of thousands, possibly millions of dollars on the restoration of Donaldson Run and created a buffer zone to help protect it, I think it would be within keeping with the garage within the current 25 feet setback would better reflect the intention and purpose of the buffer zone without restricting his right to build. Thank you.
May I ask the question?
Yes, excuse me, Ms. Begg. Ms. Malice has a question.
Were you part of the neighborhood that was contacted, invited to meet with the applicant? Were you invited to meet with the applicant? After our last meeting, we had suggested the applicant.
We spoke to the applicant after the last meeting and told him what we proposed, which is 25 feet back, and then he set up a few dates to meet that none of the neighbors could meet with him, and then we did put forward 3 other dates that we could meet, and he could not meet on those dates. Then I emailed him and asked him to forward me what he proposed, and he simply said it would be online in a few days. And when I looked on it, the proposal he said online, it was just 2 feet closer to the curb, and the same plan essentially, except actually closer to the curb. So it didn't really address any of the concerns that we had asked him to address.
So you had no face-to-face meetings? You had no face-to-face meetings?
I live in Maryland, and my father is currently in an assisted living facility. Although if he can still walk, we intend to bring him home if he can't walk anymore and just have a full-time healthcare aide with him.
Okay, thank you.
Christine Davenport. Welcome.
Hi, thank you for the opportunity to speak. I'm here to encourage the board to deny this use variance in keeping with your staff's own findings, that such a variance would be inconsistent with what is currently on the street and also inconsistent with your very own zoning rules, which I believe exist for a reason, not be observed in the breach. I live on 24th Road, and a couple factual clarifications. I did speak with Mr. Moore tonight, and he authorized me to represent to the board, since he was not able to come, that he is still opposed to the project, so I'm not sure there was a miscommunication, as is, I believe he's previously submitted a letter to that effect, and that as is the Campbell residence, which is 4715, both of which are adjacent to my property at 4717 24th Road North. 24th Road North is a small street. It's a narrow street, and where they're proposing to put this structure is at the narrowest point on the street. It is a question, at least from my mind, of safety, of practicality. I am probably the neighbor on the street who is home the most. I have 4 young children, and I am a stay-at-home mom, and I see the effect any additional traffic has on the street. Now, that might be outside of your considerations now. It's certainly not outside of mine, and is motivating me to come here tonight, to hire a babysitter and get here. Because it is important to me, both the safety, but also, you know, in my previous life, I was an attorney, and I think rules exist for a reason. And in this case, I think they exist for a very good reason. It's a narrow street, and the revised plan actually makes it more non-conforming to what we had asked for before, which was for him to set it back farther from the street and to conform with the zoning rules. So thank you for your time, and if you have any questions.
Mr. Chairman, may I ask a question?
Ms. Malice?
You mentioned traffic, and I know that's come up before. 24th Road, I'm looking at the plat. It's not a through street, right?
It is not, no.
It ends. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 houses on your side of the street.
Yes.
How much traffic do you get on that street?
Well, we get enough that very often we get people trying to cut through, honestly. We get cars that park every which way, and...
But you're not going to get more than 50 cars a day on that street, right?
I couldn't estimate, but I would say that one point that I'd like to point out is 24th Street, on which the Hartages live, is the old trolley turnaround street, and it's an extremely wide street. It has almost double the parking of any other street in the nearby vicinity. Street parking is not an issue on 24th Street. They have a driveway. I'm very sympathetic to the argument that they'd like covered parking. I myself don't have covered parking,
Do-
but you know, there's street parking and they have a driveway. So
I'm getting, the other question I had to do with, never mind, I'll ask you.
I do believe my husband was in contact with
Wait.
Mr. Hardage, if that was your follow-up question.
Yeah, were you at the meeting?
My husband was.
At the last
He was.
BZA meeting?
And he spoke, yes.
Okay, because, you know, one of the things that we did discuss was that, you know, you may not like it, but he has the right to have access to his property.
Conform with the zoning laws as required, right? So what he's asking for is a variance of those laws, those requirements, and we're here to say that we don't believe a variance is appropriate in these circumstances.
But he could put access there.
Absolutely access from his right, and if he wants to put it up where it belongs, then you're right. I absolutely agree. We can't do anything to stop it.
Okay.
But putting it 2 feet closer to the street, to me, is not a workable solution.
Unfortunate that the meeting didn't take place, because the intent of our having a deferral was that you all get together and work some of this out. And it
I
appears that
believe
not-
my husband did talk to him. I don't know, but he could probably speak to that more.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Alan Williams.
Good points, good. There's no traffic. Yeah, I know,
Evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Alan Williams. I reside at 4729 Old Dominion Drive, which is the corner street on 24th Road in Old Dominion, the dead-end street that's in question for the access here. And I regret, I don't think that we have met, I have not met John or Gordy personally before. Just very briefly, I think, on one occasion. I've been on travel a lot, and so I've missed a lot of the discussion in early meetings. And I just want to raise a couple of points of concern. In my house, we put an addition to the house some 25 years ago. And one of the issues was, as it's been noted here, this street is non-conforming. It's much narrower than the standard right-of-way. So I had to meet a double test of setback from the edge of the road, but also setback from the center of the right-of-way. And it was actually the center of right-of-way distance that had the greater impact on the siting of my addition. But I don't see any discussion here of whether the center of the right-of-way is applicable in the case of an adjunct building, or if it's something that should be considered in deciding whether 6 feet from the right-of-way is too close or not too close. So I'd throw that. You're the experts on this. You know the rules more than I do. I just didn't see the issue being addressed. Other issue, I think, and part of the reason for that, I think, is just that when you consider the neighbors across the street, is building a structure too close to the right-of-way does create an aesthetic impact for people across the street. And as far as the issue of traffic, because it is a narrow road, we also just want to let people know it does not get plowed in the winter. We are the last street in the county to get plowed if we ever do get plowed. So some of the reasons cited for wanting to have the driveway really should be somewhat discounted, because it's a matter of getting all dressed up and having no place to go, simply because the non-conforming street does not get the county services that would be needed for some of the reasons cited by the owners. I sort of second, once again, Mr. Moore's position that the road is very narrow and it does create hardship for other people on the street, even though we don't have a lot of resident traffic. As Christine pointed out, we have a lot of through traffic from people who don't know where they're going. And so we get more traffic than your average dead end, and this would somewhat contribute to that. So I don't really have a direct, I like the idea too of conforming to what's in the what's allowable by right in the absence of other serious conditions, but I just want to make sure that all the other conditions are considered by the board before they decide which direction they want to go. Thank you.
Jeff McClear. Welcome.
Yes. Hi. Yeah. You need my full name and address?
Just say your name. Just state your
Jeff
name.
McAleer. I think my wife was here last meeting. Yeshua McAleer. Yeah, I just wanted to speak to the variance issue to the front. I'm not concerned with the 5 feet. I mean, the 5 feet sounds like you're not all concerned either with that. But being so close to the road, I'm concerned that it would be an obtrusive-looking structure, from the front, from our vantage point, from other neighbors across the street.
4707.
I would, I guess I'm trying to weigh I understand the financial cost of tearing up a patio, and I met John. I had, some friendly discussions. So I guess the real issue is it justified to have it? Like, we have a garage across from our house. It's 25 feet, and quite honestly, that looks pretty close to compare to the other garages and carports on the street. So I think the latest proposal is half of that, or less than 12 feet. This seems to me, it would be visually unattractive. That's my main concern, I guess. I know there's other concerns people voice, but anyway.
Thank you very much, sir. That was the last speaker. Ms. Freshman?
I have a question for staff. It looks from the aerials and the photos provided by the applicant that there is a rear addition that's been put on this house.
Mm-hmm. Correct.
Not disputing how that happened, but it does speak to the fact that what would otherwise be a deep yard with more flexibility is not nearly as flexible. And can you tell me if they were to put a garage on the side, which I know they don't want to do, is there room for that? It seems to me at some point that was addressed, but I can't find it.
If it's detached, they probably have problems doing that because of the 8-foot separation. Now, if they added it as an addition to the home, it could be done by right.
Okay, so, and I realize that's not the request, and I assume it's at least in part financial, but there are alternatives to the application, the request, that would provide covered parking, it appears.
Comments by other board members?
Well, I did want to ask the applicant a question, so if he wants to
Well,
come up.
let's please come up, because Ms. Malice has a question for you, and then you can respond. But let's start with Ms. Malice's question.
Okay.
Staff, in our report, makes a recommendation of 18 feet. Can you, I know maybe you mentioned this before, how do you feel about that?
Well, it would put it, again, I provided here copies of the plat with the staff recommendation as the second page, and it shows it, where it is, I can find it.
Patio in half?
Yeah,
It would just be fewer feet away from the house.
Right, it would eat into the patio, it would cut into the patio, it would pretty much eliminate the patio, and so, I mean, either by right or by the staff recommendation, it's going to add astronomically to the expense, the engineering and design, and I believe it would negatively affect the aesthetics because of the fact it would take away patio space that exists right now.
So by right, you lose the patio.
By right or by staff recommendation.
Right, so that's,
They
but
don't even recommend it.
they're not really recommending it, they're just suggesting that as a consideration. But it seems like if we don't agree with the use permit, that you will, if you want the patio, or if you want the carport, you're going to have to, the patio goes. So to me, it seems like maybe there needs to be flexibility with the patio, because that's in play. So I just...
Well, if need be, then that's what we'll consider. I'm determined to do the project. I have a right to do the project, and I plan to.
Sure.
If I can, unless there's some other barrier that I'm not aware of. I don't know what else to do. I've reached out to my neighbors in good faith. I've tried to talk to people. I'm not getting a response. They just show up at these hearings and complain, so I don't really understand what else I can do.
I share that. I had hoped that there would be more interaction with your neighbors and that you would come back with something that was mutually acceptable to everyone. And since it's not, since that didn't happen, you all lose control. Yes, you leave it up to us.
Okay, well, so be it. I trust the board to make a wise decision.
Okay.
Mr. Melnick?
Yeah. So I'd like to make a motion.
Go right ahead.
All right. I'd like to make a brief comment. So, one of the analysis that we have here that really comes into play is, would the proposal promote compatibility of development with the surrounding neighborhood because the overall footprint, size, and placement are similar to the structures on the property surrounding the subject property? And here, I completely agree with staff. I'm sympathetic to the reasons for the proposal, but it just seems like this is like completely, it falls within that parameter, or it falls, without it. So, in other words, I agree with the staff that it does not promote compatibility. So, I think it's our duty to deny this. So, I'd make a motion to go along with the staff analysis and approve the attached resolution denying the subject use permit in case D 1105815 UP1.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved by Mr. Melnick and seconded by Ms. Freshman to deny the request.
Can I speak?
Ms. Freshman?
I think it's unfortunate that one of the important comments from the staff is not one of our choices. In other words, we have a denial or we have an approval as requested, and that's unfortunate because I think that, as I said before, the choices have already been made to put an addition and a patio in, and now the applicant wants a carport, and there just isn't a whole lot of space for it. And so, in some respects, this was a self-inflicted wound. However, it is what it is. But I was persuaded that an 18-foot compromise might be something that we could consider, but as we look at it now, we don't have that option. That's a comment that staff made, but isn't one of the motions that we're adjusting. So I think that's unfortunate, but I seconded the motion and I will support the motion.
Any further comments?
Did staff want to respond?
I believe you could add that as a resolution if that's something the board would like to consider, because you can ask for a lesser setback reduction. It would just be an additional resolution subject to the same conditions, just different setbacks.
Yeah, I'd be willing to amend my motion. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So I'd like to amend my motion and have the motion to deny it as applied for. However, allow no more or no less than an 18-foot setback allowance from 24th Road North right away.
Does the seconder accept that?
Yes.
Okay, the motion has been amended to an approval for 18 feet. Any comments or questions?
Clarification. What is this right side setback? Which one are we going with there? As presented?
Okay, I'll clarify. Yeah, clarify.
Yes, please.
Okay, so my motion would be no less than 18 feet from 24th Road North right of way, but the 5-foot right side yard setback.
Okay.
Because those were both supported by staff.
Yes.
Do we have what we need?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Motion carries 5-0.
The next case tonight is V-11061-15-UP-1. It's also carryover and a revised use permit request by Bridget Obikoya to permit a setback of 4.5 feet to the eave, 5 feet to the wall, and balconies from the right side property line instead of 10 feet as required, and 4.5 feet to the eave and 5 feet to the wall and balconies from the left side property line instead of 8 feet as required. Also 17.8 feet to the stairs, 19.8 feet to the rear patio, and 20.8 feet to the rear balcony from the rear property line instead of 21 feet as required. Finally, an aggregate side yard of 9 feet instead of 18 feet is required. This is all for the construction of a new 3-story detached single-family home with second and third floor front and second and third floor rear balconies, a rear raised patio with stairs, and 2 rooftop decks. This is in the R27 zoning district on a premises known as 2135 South Oxford Street.
Good evening and thank you.
Please state your name for the record.
My name is Bridget Obikoya.
Welcome.
And I am here to ask for permission to construct a 3-story single-family home with setbacks on the side. And I'd like to say that I am a county employee. I am very passionate about the neighborhood in which I have this property. I've worked a lot in the community, and my desire is to build a small 600 square foot ground floor footprint, green, affordable house in a community that I am very endeared to. So that is the reason why I'm here. The request before you is for a small modern home with 3 stories, and it would be adjacent to a 2.5-story pitched roof. The difference, as I see it, is that the 3-story modern home with a flat roof is virtually the same as the 2.5 because of the pitch, and the fact that I am requesting to have the tower on the 3rd floor recessed from the front of the property provides a sky exposure line that's imperceptible from the street and virtually the same as the houses on the street. So that is the request that I am asking for. And also, after submitting my application, I've met with the community on numerous occasions, and in addition to the 10 signatures that I received at the time of the application, I've spoken with the Civic Association twice and received 11 more, 21 signatures in total. So everyone that I've spoken with seems to be in support of my application and of the green concept that I've presented before them. And we are also wanting to keep the cover environmentally friendly by impervious cover and having a rooftop deck, which is the whole reason for the 3rd floor, so that we can have access to the roof for more space on this small lot. So that's my request.
Thank you very much. Does anyone have a question for the applicant? I don't have any speaker slips, but I'd like to make a comment. I was looking at the plans, and, well, I do have a question. The staff, you're recommending against the 3rd story.
Correct.
But this ordinance would allow a 3rd story as a matter of right, correct?
That's correct.
And the height limit in this district is 35 feet to the midpoint of a pitched roof or 35 feet to the top of a flat roof.
That's correct.
And this one is 29.
Correct.
That's where I was having a little trouble with the 3 stories, because when I look at the house that's next door, and I'm just guessing, it's 2 stories with a pitched roof. Maybe all the way to the tippy top, that if you think each floor is 9, that's 18, and another 9 is 27 to the tip top of the pitched roof. Or even though maybe a lot of the houses are 1 story on this block, or, they could be torn down or added to and end up with a 35 to the midpoint of a pitch. And the thing about 35 to the midpoint of a pitched roof, a lot of times the very top is around 40, 39 or 40. I think some studies were done at one time as to where that comes out. So the issue of the 3rd story sort of really doesn't bother me with this property. That's my 2 cents. There's also side yards and so forth of concern, but I wanted to make sure we got on record that you can do 3 stories of house.
Follow up?
Please.
I had the same question. So I wondered, there have been cases where it's the combination of asking for an additional story and limited setbacks. Was that part of your thinking in?
Yes, and obviously just looking at the homes around it being 2 stories with a pitched roof.
If I may respond, I guess my problem with that would be that I think it's a shame that somebody can build something really huge as a matter of right, but if they ask us for permission, then we say, well, no, you do less. That's where I can't, and that's just me. We've got one on tonight that's 34.9 feet to the midpoint of the pitched roof, and I think it's probably even a new house. So I can't remember, but anyway, I'm sorry. I have trouble with that.
So can I just follow up or clarify?
Absolutely.
Does this applicant need a use permit to build a 3-story building?
The use permit is just for the setbacks. There's no issue with the height, whereas in regards to height requirements, so they meet the height, as Mr. Russell was stating. It's just the side yard setbacks and that rear setback that are the actual issue.
So why would you deny the height and just not limit your comments to the setbacks?
It would be based on the consistency with the neighborhood, with the other homes around it. If we had 3-story homes on each side of it, it would fit in perfectly. But it's the fact that the homes around it are all 1 story or 2 stories with the slant roof.
So what you're saying is that when they come in for a variance on a side setback, it opens them up to comment and restriction on other elements of the plan.
It can.
Yeah, I'm enjoying this discussion. Can we continue?
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Smith.
I was looking at Richard Westbrook's letter from 1990, and it reminded me of the Simpson House on Pollard that I participated in the hearing that resulted in that narrow 3-story house.
Oh, you mean Barton, right?
Yeah, I mean Barton. I'm sorry.
He's here again.
No. And I don't want to make that. I don't want to do that again. So the 7 feet wide by right versus I think yours was 11, 12, and it's. I don't see neighbors saying I don't want this thing towering over me. I see neighbors signing on to it. In fact, so I guess I don't have. And it doesn't look like wasted space or exorbitant space. You have a very small yard, and having some the ability to have air to get outside is a good thing. So earlier I did have concerns about 3 stories, but I really don't because of there's some.
I'm persuaded by all the conversation. It's a very small lot to start with. So obviously setbacks are appropriate, setback relief is appropriate, and I'm prepared to make a motion.
Ms. Freshman.
I move, in the case of V-11061-15-UP1, I move for the alternative resolution, approval as advertised, subject to the conditions listed in the resolution.
Is there a second? It's been moved by Ms. Freshman, seconded by Mr. Smith to approve the request as requested. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
The next case tonight is V-11067-15-UP-1. This is a use permit request by Ann Yakubova to permit a setback of 19.1 feet to the porch from the 12th Street South right-of-way instead of 21 feet is required. This is for the construction of a new front porch. This is in the R6 zoning district, premises known as 5138 12th Street South.
Can we hear from the applicant, please?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and Board. My name is Jason Burkett. I'm Ann's husband. We submitted for the variance just to add a front porch for improvement to the property. The existing stoop is obviously deteriorating. It's also very difficult to get in and out of the front door with the existing railing. And so the front porch would add more space. We also have older parents. It becomes very difficult with the shortness of the setback requirements. And so we did submit, along with the application, some signatures from neighbors, 6 to be exact, and there were also comments from other neighbors supporting the change and the variance. And it's a modest change. It's 2 feet roughly into encroachment into the current setback requirements. The Civic Association also supports the change as well. And it would be within the recommendations of the staff.
Thank you. Have any questions of the applicant? Here we have a existing freestanding tiny house. I think this one's smaller than the one we just approved. And it does demonstrate that houses can be 16 feet wide. And of course, you know, townhouses are often 15 or 16 feet wide, so that's not an unlivable width. So it's a freestanding townhouse. Anyway, I waste time. Do I hear a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Ms. Malice?
I would move that the Board of Zoning Appeals adopt the attached resolution approving use permit V 11067-15-UP-1, subject to the conditions listed in the resolution.
It's been moved by Ms. Malice and seconded by Mr. Melnick to approve the request as requested. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Next case is V-11068-15-UP-1. This is a use permit request by Ricardo and Lixa Iglesias to permit a setback at 13.5 feet to the eave and 14.8 feet to the porch base from the North Herndon Street right-of-way instead of 21 feet is required. So the construction of a new front porch on a new 2.5-story single-family home is in the R5 zoning district, premises known as 1313 North Herndon Street.
Do we have any questions for the applicant? I mean, for the staff. Could we hear from the applicant, please?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and Board. I'm Ricardo Iglesias, my wife, Lixa Iglesias, and we're going to let our architect, Bob Braddock, take over.
Hello, Mr. Braddock, welcome.
Hi, Bob Braddock, Red House Architects, the designer of the home. Just have a couple of things for you. One is that when the application was made, we didn't have signatures from the neighbors, but we have them now in support.
Please.
And the only things to say are that, well, you've seen the information in the packet, but we'd like to point out that the house and the porch that we're asking for will actually, the new house, the proposed house, will actually be set further back than what is currently existing by a couple feet. So I think that's an improvement. Also, we think that a brand new home is an improvement over that. That was really all.
Any questions for the applicant or his representative? Questions for staff or discussion by the board? Or
I'm still relatively new here, so I was wondering about the setback averaging determination. Is that something you all do, and can you kind of explain that?
Yes, a setback averaging determination is where an applicant will get a survey of the entire block face on that side of the street from the end of the block to the other end of the block. And the surveyor is going to show all the front walls, as well as sometimes they show the porches, but really it's the front walls that matter. Staff is able to do this by right and take the average of those setbacks, and whatever the average may be, we can get as close as 15 feet to a street right-of-way. So it's kind of a by right option for making something consistent, whereas the BZA would normally do that and say this is consistent because the placement's similar to other homes around it. This is a by right option for people to do.
So this would be a case where maybe there's a lot of variation on the street in terms of what the setbacks exist.
Correct.
And you're trying to strike an average.
Mm-hmm.
And
Correct.
then you use that average to compare it with the application.
Exactly.
So it may be further back than some and closer than others
Exactly.
in reality, but on the average, I see. Okay. And that's part of the zoning ordinance that we use?
Exactly. It's actually listed here. If you look at the second provision for all 1 and 2 family dwellings and their accessory structures, and you see number 1 and number 2 on there.
The zoning ordinance amendment that created this was done in response to cases coming before the BZA on streets like this one where predated the zoning ordinance again in neighborhoods like those in Clarendon, around Clarendon, the old neighborhoods before the 1950 ordinance, where all the houses were very close to the street anyway. So people could either come in and do something by right, set back 25 feet, and be set way back and look wrong.
Okay.
I don't know if you're familiar with 7th Street. There's a house on 7th Street that sits way back instead of in South Arlington.
Okay.
You may know the house.
Yes, I do.
Yeah, that's an access to Glebe. So yes. Anyway, they chose to set back, which they probably set back even further than 25 feet. But this was done in response to lots of variance requests where the BZA was lining houses up. So.
Okay. Well, thank you for that explanation. I'm glad to know about this.
Comments, questions by the board? Motion?
I'd like to make a motion.
Mr. Melnick.
All right. In case V 11068 15 UP1, I'd like to make a motion that the Board of Zoning Appeals adopt the attached resolution granting the subject use permit with the conditions listed.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved by Mr. Melnick, seconded by Ms. Malice to approve the request. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
Thank you very much.
The next case is V-11069-15-UP-1. This is a use permit request by Ken and Susanna Rack to permit a setback of 0 feet to the stairs from the 23rd Street South right-of-way instead of 5 feet as required, and 13 feet to the landings, 15.5 feet to the eave, and 17 feet to the porch base from the 23rd Street South right-of-way instead of 21 feet as required. So the construction of a new front porch with landings and also a front stairway. It's in the R6 zoning district, premises known as 5017 23rd Street South.
Any questions of the staff? If not, can we hear from the applicant?
Hi, thank you. My name is Lou Boza. I'm with Reform Architects. Ken and Susanna Reck are the clients right here.
Okay.
Susanna came to us to ask for us to design an addition to the south of their existing property. That addition is by right within all the required and allowable setbacks. To tie the main addition to the existing house architecturally, they also desired a front porch across the front of the house. Given the allowable encroachment of 4 feet, it became difficult to achieve the necessary elevation change from the front yard, from the front sidewalk to the existing house, and also from the front door down to the existing driveway on the north end of the house. With that, we decided to apply for the use permit to go over the 4-foot allowable encroachment into that setback. We looked at the neighboring properties and did some research and found that many of the neighboring properties have porch depths of up to 8 feet. So we are proposing an 8-foot front porch that carries across the existing house and the addition that will be off to the south. We're also proposing to replace the existing stairs from the sidewalk up to a landing that would then turn and run parallel with the front porch up to a stoop that would then bring you up to the elevation of the front door. Again, that the stair that goes from the sidewalk up to the sort of approximate level of that landing would be replaced in kind, essentially. The stairs that run from the stoop off to the north would create several stairs and landings, sort of cascading down and wrapping the north side of the front porch down to an existing landing pad that allows for basement access on the north side and then connect to the driveway. So they have the ability to use their driveway, enter the front door of the house from their main driveway instead of going up the front steps.
Any questions of the applicant? The staff or comments?
Mr. Chairman.
Mr.
Let me
Smith.
make a comment that your, the expansion elevation with the highlighted areas, the change in elevation, all those are wonderful exhibits. Appreciate those.
Sir?
Ms. Freshman?
It really looks like a very nice project, and obviously the topography requires some real creativity. I do find a zero setback a little startling, but I understand why it is that, because that's not a number we normally would see. But I'm prepared to make a motion.
Yes, I think that it's sometimes it's unfortunate that we have to give relief to take steps down to the street. We used to not have to do that. That's even English, what I just said. Please, Ms. Gresham.
I move the Board of Zoning Appeals adopt the attached resolution approving use permit V-11069-15-UP1, subject to the conditions listed in the resolution.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved by Ms. Freshman, seconded by Ms. Malice to approve the request. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Granted.
The next case is V-11070-15-VA-2. This is a variance request by Ahmed Fahim to permit the construction of a new semi-detached dwelling on a lot that does not meet the width and area requirements of the R27 zoning district. So the construction of a new 3-story semi-detached dwelling with a left side porch is in R27 zoning district premises known as 2121 South Lowell Street, and the motion is to withdraw this variance.
Have a motion, please.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Ms. Malice.
In the case, I move that the Board of Zoning Appeals adopt the attached resolution to withdraw the variance V1442-56-1. Is that the right variance number?
No, that was the previous.
That was the previous one. Where's the current one?
11070.
Where do you see? Oh, at the bottom here? Oh, there it is. I'm sorry. Variance number V-11070-15-VA-2.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded, but I have a clarification. There is no resolution because there doesn't need to be a resolution. It's a, if I may state your motion for you, it's a motion to accept withdrawal of the case. Been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Case is withdrawn.
Okay, the next case is the associated use permit, which they are going forward with. This is V-11070-15-UP-1. This is a use permit request by Ahmed Fahim to permit a setback of 11.2 feet to the home and porch from the left side lot line instead of 14 feet as required, 14.9 feet to the home and porch from the South Lowell Street right-of-way instead of 25 feet as required, 10.5 feet to the home from the rear lot line instead of 25 feet as required, and finally to permit a building in excess of 2.5 stories within 25 feet of a street right-of-way. It's for the construction of a new 3-story semi-detached dwelling with a left side porch. It's in the R27 zoning district premises known as 2121 South Lowell Street.
Are there any questions of the staff? Not, could we hear from the applicant, please?
Good evening, David McClure on behalf of Mr. Fahim.
Welcome.
If I may, I want to point out, I have some photographs I'd like to tender in just a moment. The current front setback is 14.9. We're not asking to change it from that 14.9. The existing left side yard setback is 11.2. We are requesting that that remain the same. The two issues really, as I see it, is the rear yard right setback. And this is, as you see from as I'm sure you've seen from the diagram, it's a diagonal back rear yard. So the right rear setback is a little more difficult to deal with on this particular lot dimensions here. And we're asking that it be 10.5, and then also that it be 3 stories. And in connection with that, if I may approach with some photographs.
Certainly. Thank you. Why don't you give them to us? Concerned for time, and we'll pass them out. Thanks.
You'll see the townhouses that are depicted in one of the photographs is the Bella Vista development that lies behind our property. The other photograph is the house that's right across the street, right across South Lowell Street. That house is three stories, 3.5, and excuse me, 3 stories, and the Bella Vista is 3.5 stories. So what we're asking is consistent, as we see it, with the current evolution of development in the neighborhood, and would fit in nicely with what is being developed right across the street and right behind our particular lot. Now, the staff has recommended an alternative approval that would permit a 15-foot setback to the right rear yard. Maintain the 11.5 to the side. Increase slightly the front setback from the current 14.9 to 15, and restrict it to 2 stories. We would prefer that if the board believes that the 10.5 is not acceptable, we have in fact brought some alternative plans with us that show a 15-foot right rear yard setback. It maintains the 14.9 front yard setback, but it also maintains the 3 stories. And if I might inquire, Mr. Fahim and I have been going in great detail on what alternatives there are, what proposals we can make, how to compromise with the staff's proposal. If I may inquire if it would be permissible to develop a basement here and keep it at 2 stories at that point. It may be an appropriate compromise if that's an acceptable way to develop this property.
Who are you asking?
Yes, sir.
You're asking the staff?
Yes.
Mr. Knoxon, on to the applicant.
So you're asking to keep the 10.2 on the rear?
No, we would go to the 15, as you suggested, and keep, if we could keep the 2 stories and have a basement, because we really want that third level.
Mm-hmm.
Let me ask a question of clarification, because you're confusing me at this point. You're going to drop the whole thing and have the garage in the basement? Is that what you're saying?
No. Just develop a basement under the current structure, and keep it at 2 stories. Otherwise, if we can't do that, we would still like to request that it be 3 stories, that be considered.
No, I understand what he's saying. If the basement's completely underground, or if less than 50% of it's underground, it's not considered a story under the zoning ordinance. So at that rate, having a basement underneath is not going to be considered a 3-story building if you have 2 floors on top of it.
Okay. And therefore, we would avoid the 25-foot setback problem with the 3 stories.
That would be correct.
Okay. All right. We would like to request a modification, in part adoption of what the staff has recommended. We would agree 15-foot right rear yard setback, 15-foot front setback, maintain the 11.5 side yard setback, and develop a 2-story structure there. And as I said, that's even more in keeping with what's been developed, which is over 2 stories front and behind the property.
I like the direction in which you're going, but this is not the right venue for redesigning or redefining. I would suggest a 1-month deferral.
If I may inquire of Mr. Knox, it would not, I assume it would not require BZA approval to develop the basement. That can be done without having to come back to the board. Is that your view of it, sir?
Just to put a basement in by itself?
Well, get the other pieces approved as the board has proposed it, the alternate plan, as the board has suggested, or as the staff has suggested, excuse me, and then we were just to develop the basement without having to come back or without deferring and losing additional time.
The board, what happens is when the board makes an approval, you're going to be conditioned that you build exactly what you're showing them today here at the hearing. And if you make any changes to that in the building permit and they haven't seen them, you have to go back through the process again. So we could not, or the board could not approve that and let you change it.
All right, I understand.
But the point of the deferral would be allow you to work all that out and submit plans that we can then approve, and then what is approved is what you intend to build, and you don't run into any problems down the road.
Yes, I appreciate it.
With inconsistencies.
We have the setbacks they were going to be asking for, and that's all I need to advertise.
You have something to say now?
Yes. We would like to adopt the staff's recommendation, and we would ask that a deferral be granted, and we would submit plans that shows the full proposal.
We would need. If this proposal changes in most any way except the very slightest, it can be deferred, therefore you don't have to pay all the fee and start over.
Yes,
but it can be deferred, and the plans can be put together, and the conditions of approval of a resolution for us can be brought forward.
Thank you. That's what we would request at this time.
Okay. I do have I have 4 speaker slips.
Oh. I know how important it is for the board to have applicants talk to neighbors and try to get approval. There were discussions with the other semi-detached owner, and we understood that there was not an objection. I've spoken to Mrs. Anderson tonight. I think she may have changed her mind. The other neighbor, we had the same understanding, but they're here, and we'll see what they have to say. Thank you, sir.
Okay.
I just wanted to let the board know we did make that effort.
Yes, thank you very much. I'm going to call the speakers.
But there's the...
Kyle Lease. Now, Mr. Lease, you've heard that we are leaning towards deferring this for 1 month.
Yes, I understand. I would still like the opportunity to present.
Absolutely. Go right ahead.
I have some photos. I'm glad that the applicant had photos of my property. I'm at 3515 22nd Street South, which is the property directly behind.
Okay.
There's a set of 5 photos that are photos from various shots of my property. And then the 6th item is a letter from my adjoining neighbor, 3513, who is also strongly opposed to the plans from both the original application as well as the staff proposal. Specifically because of the aspects of the privacy and the change to not the view. I actually commend the chairman for saying that you're pro-development. I'm very pro-development, which is why I bought this house. My wife and I purchased this property knowing it was new construction and it fit the best for everything that we were trying to do in Arlington. My son's school is actually across the street, Drew Elementary School. He has a 30-second commute, which is great. I work at the Pentagon. My wife works at the castle at the Smithsonian downtown. We are back home after 5 years, and I decided to drop anchor, and this is where we're staying. This home allowed us to buy, and if you look, I believe it is photos number 4 and 5, a home that was brand new construction that fit all of our needs with amazing backyard open space and clear view old growth tree on our property. Obviously, there's a tree on the applicant's property. By moving to within 10.5 feet on the right or 15 as the staff proposed, just doing some very basic measurements, our plans for privacy in the backyard, which currently includes a contract for a deck which has been signed, and we're still awaiting permits for redevelopment of the backyard to include additional semi-permeable pavers and making it a quiet space for us, goes away based upon the drawings that I've seen. I am all for redevelopment in the area and would wholeheartedly support building upon the existing structure and not going any further back, as they're already outside the original setbacks on a non-conforming property. I think it would be wonderful if that happened. It would keep the sight lines roughly the same and it would allow us the privacy for which we purchased the home. I would just like to finish by saying, if this were a year later, we closed January of this year after coming back from 5 years overseas. If the property, as the applicant had already decided, was built, when we looked at this home, we would not have purchased this home. We purchased it for the privacy, the background, and that's the back yard and that slope gives us. By having something built up and over that fence line looking down into us goes completely against the only reason we purchased the home from the privacy aspect. That's all I had.
Mr. Chairman,
Ms. Malice.
may I ask a question?
Absolutely.
You are more concerned about the setbacks than you are about a three-story building?
I am not concerned about a three-story building based upon limited angle of attack, looking at where that third floor would be. Actually back at 18.9 feet away, I don't think it's that bad as compared to something at 10 feet or 15 feet. And I would also throw in that, yes, the townhomes that we have bought are three-story, and I think they look nice. I like them. We bought it. They are by right and conforming. So there are differences between the properties as being discussed. But again, I was never contacted by anybody. We had no discussions. We're obviously right there. I'd be willing, as is my neighbor whose letter is in that packet, he was not able to attend this evening, to be able to sit down and discuss. But it does create some problems for us.
Thank you.
Thanks, sir. Gail Hunter.
Good evening. I'm Gail Hunter, and my family and I have been residents of the North community for like 65 years or more, and we live right next door to the property at 2117 South Lowell Street. And we are totally opposed to not only the setbacks, but to that three-story structure going up it's right next to the house, so that would be distracting to our view. The proposal is next to a duplex. So you have the duplex here and then a tall structure right next to it. And that would just defeat the purpose of the neighborhood. We've talked to several of the neighbors. We have a petition that have been signed by several of the neighbors who agree with us not to approve that, or request that the board not to approve the structure. I see that you have requested a deferral, and we're willing to take a look at the plans when they come in revised.
Thank you. Did you put in a speaker slip?
Yes.
You have to be called.
Oh, you have to be called?
No, I'll call you. You stay right there. Are you?
Shirley Anderson.
Shirley Anderson, thank you very much.
I'm the owner of the property next door that we're referring to. And my husband can't be here tonight because he's in the hospital, and I have not had the time. I'm just taking the time to come, but I really shouldn't be here. But we do have a concern about this property, and my husband and his family has owned the property over 45 years. And to have the structure to come, we're totally against it. So if, and I have the signatures of about 13 other people that are against this. I grew up on South Lowell Street, and I'm not telling my age, but I did. And like I said, my husband has owned this property for over 45 years, and these are the neighbors that are against that.
Can you spare that copy?
Sure. These are the originals, but I
Can we?
I just asked, Drew, I've been collecting things. If you could make sure that something like this that we're given actually shows up in the packet next month as
Certainly.
as
These,
submitted.
yeah, none of these came in beforehand, so.
No, we're finding we're not getting anything beforehand, if I make that comment. But I do get concerned about stuff we get, that it gets in the package the next month. So I've been trying to make a pile of things.
Okay.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Yes. And Ashley Adams, please.
Good evening. I'm also a resident of Arlington County. My grandparents own the adjacent structure, 2117 South Lowell Street. As my aunt just said, it takes away from the appearance of the neighborhood to put a structure that tall combined with the one-level structure there. We also were not notified of his proposed plans. He did not reach out to any, well, I can't speak for any of the neighbors, but many of the neighbors that we contacted, we were not notified. So I am another one who is against the proposal.
Thank you, Ms. Adams. That's the last speaker. Have any, I guess we have a
Mr.
request
Chairman,
for deferral.
I have a question about the deferral then to staff. If the plans change, will there be a need to re-advertise?
There will be.
And will 1 month provide enough time? I know, so the submission date probably is next week in order to make the next
Correct.
step.
It's as simple as changing the plat, and if they're going with the recommendation that staff made, the setbacks are already set, and if they agree to that, and that's what they want to do, it's really simple to change it for us in the ad. So,
I wanted to make sure they understood that.
Mr. Chairman?
Ms. Malice.
I would like there to be sufficient time for the neighbors to see the plans before they come to the hearing. And a 1-month deferral doesn't really give them much opportunity to engage.
Okay.
Because basically it's got to be drawn now and sent to you. So I lean towards a longer deferral. But here's one of the questions I have. It's not clear if all the neighbors have all the same objections. You know, we heard one person that said it's not the height, it's the setbacks. So if we go with the staff recommendation, there still may be controversy in the community. And it would be better if this was vetted a little bit among the neighbors before it came to us. Go ahead, no, I'll defer.
Well, I agree. I think that it may be that December is better than November for that reason. And I assume the applicant has been listening. And so we're talking, most definitely 2 stories and not 3. On the setbacks, there's going to be compromise on all sides because there should be some ability to redevelop this property. And so, but I think if there's an opportunity for everyone to get together and at least express their opinions, understanding that everyone's not going to get their way or there would be no decision. But I think that's desirable before the applicant decides what to resubmit. So then I think I move a deferral for 2 months to the December BZA meeting for V-11070-15-UP1. And the date is
December 16th.
December 16th, 2-month deferral.
Is there a second? It's been moved by Ms. Freshman and seconded by Ms. Malice to defer this case to the December BZA meeting. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries unanimously.
The next case is V-11071-15-UP-1. This is a use permit request by Christopher Durzak and Clayton Swope to permit a setback of 4.2 feet to the eave and 4.9 feet to the wall from the right side property line instead of 8 feet as required. So 19.4 feet to the eave and 20.1 feet to the wall from the North Edgewood Street right-of-way instead of 25 feet as required. Finally, an aggregate side yard of 14.6 feet instead of 18 feet as required. This is for alterations and expansion of an existing right side enclosed porch. This is in the R5 zoning district, premises known as 927 North Edgewood Street.
Any questions of staff?
And the difference is 0.1
Yeah,
foot
that was my question.
of the various numbers that you just read, correct? 0.1 feet
4.9 to 5,
versus 5,
right,
and 14.7 versus 14.6.
right.
Okay.
That's what
I know I'm tired, but even so. Okay.
Extreme differences. Any further questions? Well, maybe we ought to ask the question since it came up. Why is the difference?
That is, as stated earlier, staff's usual threshold is 5 feet for a structure of this nature. So we just ask for 5 feet.
And that drives the other one back as well.
Correct.
Right.
That changes the aggregate by 0.1 foot.
Okay. Well, we got it on record for this case. Okay. Could we hear from the applicant, please?
My name is Chris Durzak.
Welcome.
Hi, my name is Clayton Swope.
Thank you.
So we're the homeowners. We're requesting a use permit for the alterations and expansion of that existing sun porch to better incorporate that structure into the home. The measurements of the existing porch are 8 feet by 21 feet, and that's how the 4.9 feet to the property line was derived from our initial application. The new measurement of it would be 8 feet by 22.8 feet, or it would be 7.9 feet by 22.8 feet.
So in summary, we're keeping from the front facade the existing footprint of the sunroom, and we're extending it back just slightly so it becomes flush with the rear of the home, which is not quite visible from this shot.
I'm going to have a question for them. Without having to do all the looking up, do you have the support of the people on the side?
We have all the surrounding neighbors, that's 6 neighbors, signatures, and those are in the packet.
Thank you. Any questions? I don't have any speakers. So any questions? Or a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Mr. Melnick?
All right. In case V1107115UP1, I would move that the resolution or the alternative resolution be adopted by the Board of Zoning Appeals in this case to approve the application as advertised with conditions as stated.
It's been moved by Mr. Melnick and seconded by Ms. Freshman to approve the request. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
Thank you.
That brings us to our last case of the night. This is V-11072-15-UP-1. This is a use permit request by Brian and Melissa Deuce to permit a setback of 13.9 feet to the egress window well 14.6 feet to the eave of the addition, and 14.9 feet to the wall of the new addition from the 9th Road North right-of-way instead of 25 feet is required. It's for the construction of a new 2-story left side addition with a left side egress window well. It's in the R6 zoning district on a premises known as 913 North Lebanon Street.
Any questions for the staff? Can we hear from the applicant, please? Welcome.
Thank you. My name is Melissa Deuce. My husband, Brian, and I are the owners and residents of 913 North Lebanon Street. We've lived in Arlington for just over 10 years and in our current home for just over 8 years. We have 2 young boys, Talon, who's 6, and Logan, who's 3, and we want to continue raising our boys in our current home. We're requesting this use permit so that we can build a modest addition while maintaining the existing integrity of our home and the neighborhood. Our primary goal in building the addition is to gain a master bathroom and some additional family living space and study space on the main level for the boys. We need the use permit because of 2 significant hardships facing our home. The first is the 5-foot sewer easement running through our entire backyard. As the staff indicated in the recommendation, the easement practically bisects our lot. Because of this easement, we're unable to build an addition behind the house. The second hardship is our home is built on an angle so that the front left corner of our home is already 25 feet from the 9th Road North right-of-way, making it virtually impossible to build any meaningful addition on the side of the home without the use permit. Our proposed addition also includes digging out the basement for additional storage space, and we've included an egress window in the new basement space as required, and the proposed window well, as was mentioned, is 13.9 feet to the 9th Road right-of-way. The staff recommended against granting this portion of our proposal, but we couldn't really pick up a reason for that. He indicated that we could have moved it to the rear of the addition, and while this may be true, in our view, it's not as aesthetically pleasing. We worked with our architect and specifically chose the location, and it's on the drawings, in the middle, just so that it sort of goes with the other windows. We thought it looked nice in the center. We don't see any adverse impact on the surrounding properties as a result of allowing the window well in that place. And further, at least 3 other properties in our neighborhood have additions or screened-in porches that are actually closer to the street than the 13.9. They go to 10 feet. Additionally, I have a safety concern. I'd rather have the window well closer or away from the backyard because the boys are always running around in the backyard, and having it right there on the corner just makes me a little bit nervous. We spoke with 7 of our surrounding neighbors, all of the ones that are right across the street on either side and connect our lot, and they all support the proposal. They support the fact that, it'll add value to the neighborhood. We also emailed our neighborhood civic association, and they had no objection to the proposal. So in closing, we just want to let the board know that we love Arlington. We intend on staying in our home. We want to raise our boys there, and in order to do that, we just asked to have the use permit to build the modest addition to our house.
Thank you. Any questions for the applicants?
I have a comment.
Mr. Melnick.
Yeah, I want to express my appreciation of the pictures you gave us. Those are very helpful, especially with the window well. Because that's what I saw right away is if it's moved, then it would be off-center.
Yes, right.
So, that's very helpful, so I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Any other comments or motions?
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Smith.
I'm going to move the alternative resolution, which, and in so doing, I move that the Board of Zoning Appeals adopt the attached alternative resolution approving the use permit V-11072-15-UP1 for, as advertised.
Is there a second?
With, of course, the conditions that are described in the staff report.
It's been moved by Mr. Smith and seconded by Ms. Freshman to approve the alternative resolution approving the request as requested. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thanks for hanging out with us. Is there a second?
Second.
Been moved by Ms. Freshman and seconded by Ms. Malice to approve the minutes. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion to adjourn.
Unanimous.
Unanimous consent. Everybody left in the room.
Everybody here agrees.
Everybody here.
For Judy first, I thought. Freshman first.
Proclamation, acclamation,
Yeah, there should be heralds.
9:09.
Mr. Chairman.
Well, I want to say to everybody that Mr. Melnick is the co-author of a book on real estate.